Nobody who has any sense would ever claim that there was a male and female brain. Imagine that you had to pick the 1 in 100 most aggressive person and put them in jail. Men are more interested in things than women are, and women are more interested in people. There's only two reasons that men and women differ. One is cultural, and the other is biological. You get differences in occupational choice that are mostly due to biological differences, and you cannot minimize that. If you maximize free choice, then you also maximize differences in choice between people. The first thing to do is to figure out what the parameters are when you talk about something like gender. So the parameters are, say, parameters of temperament, because we're not going to talk about the biology, we're going to talk about what's derived from that. So we might say temperament. Okay, so we know the temperamental dimensions. We know that they differ between men and women, and they differ cross-culturally. Nobody who has any sense would ever claim that there was a male and female brain. Men and women are more the same by personality than they are different by a substantial margin. There's more similarity than difference, but that doesn't mean the differences are irrelevant. So let me give you an example. So if you picked two people at random out of the population and had to guess who was more aggressive, and you guessed the man, you'd be right 60% of the time. That's about the magnitude of the difference between men and women. And this is where things get more sophisticated. All right, so then imagine that you had to pick the 1 in 100 most aggressive person and put them in jail, which is what we do. They're all men. So even though at the midpoint, the difference between men and women isn't that extreme, at the extremes, the difference is extraordinary. And most of the activity, or much of the activity in complex situations, happens at the extremes. So men are more interested in things than women are, and women are more interested in people than men are, on average. There's only two reasons that men and women differ. One is cultural, and the other is biological. And if you minimize the cultural differences, you maximize the biological differences. So I know everyone's shocked when they hear this. This isn't shocking news. People have known this in the scientific community for at least 25 years. And it's been replicated in the last month 3 times in 3 separate samples, including in Science, which is the world's greatest scientific magazine by a large margin. And it isn't a small effect, it's a huge effect. It does mean that there are reasons for differences in different occupations that aren't a consequence of socialization. For example, this is especially true at the extremes. So for example, on average, men are more interested in things and women are more interested in people. And that's actually the biggest difference we know of psychologically between men and women. And even though men and women are quite similar, all things considered, the extremes make a difference. So you imagine that in order to become an engineer, look, obviously not everyone becomes an engineer. You have to have a particular temperamental proclivity to become an engineer. You have to be extraordinarily interested in things rather than people. Well, most of those people are men. And if you want to become a nurse, then you have to be much more interested in people than you are in things. And most of those people are women. And so you get differences in occupational choice that are mostly due to biological differences, and you cannot minimize that. And it's not a bad thing. Look, one of the things you want to ask yourself is that, what is the purpose of setting up a society that offers maximal equality of opportunity? And one of the answers is that you maximize people's free choice. And if you maximize free choice, then you also maximize differences in choice between people. And so you can't have both of those.